Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. Here are two more of my own stories. I do like writing to a variety of challenges, and I've done over 100 of these stories so far. You can read them via my website at ravensview.ca. I'll be doing these on Fridays and some of the classics on Tuesdays. The prompt for the first story was to write about fear and include the words dark, crunching, eerie monster and fear. All quite fitting. For the second, the challenge was to include suspense with a ticking time bomb ready to go off, real or virtual. Both stories were used by fairy tale folk. Sleep tight. Okay, said Red. Do you just pop out of the closet? Not necessarily, said the wolf. I have to build to the suspense. It's a standard story about a little boy in the bed, a dark room, and his fear. My plan is to stay hidden and just use my magic to pump it up. Well, you do that well, said Red. The last one you were hiding under a bed scared me just to listen in. I wouldn't want you under mine. Or in it? Asked the wolf. Hey, said the woodcutter, she was lonely and used way too much of that love potion on you. Just drop it, okay, buddy? Sorry, guys, said the wolf. Couldn't resist a bit of teasing. It's a part of what I do. But I should get going on this. Want to make it a good one. If it was good enough, it would become part of the stories told to kids and part of their dreams. Hopefully a scary part. Boosted by the magic key and the others had gained when the fairy tales brought them to life. Magic that they now put back into their work. Sleep tight. Good night, son. Sleep tight. Night, Dad, said Stephen. Could you leave the door open a bit? Just a bit, said his dad. You're a big boy now. He left the door open part way, the hallway light cutting a path right to the bed. Stephen lay in the middle of the mattress, his feet far from the edges. He remembered the last time he'd carelessly let a foot dangle over the edge. The sudden hot breath on it, the voice in his ear, his screams. His dad had run in quickly and turned the light on. Together they had looked under the bed, in the closet, and found nothing. His dad had said he'd be fine, and he'd agreed, but he'd lain awake for hours, jittery with fear, afraid of every little noise. He made sure the covers were tucked snugly around his feet and stared out into the hallway. He could hear the TV in the living room, how the hockey game was on, with his sister whooping and cheering. He was just starting to relax, his eyes drooping, when he felt and heard a quick puff of hot air. He watched as the door slowly swung shut, with an eerie creak of the hinges almost closing. Now there was only a thin crack of light reaching across the floor to the foot of his bed. The rest of the room was dark. He called, Dad? No answer. He leaned toward the door and called a little louder, Dad? No answer. Stephen sank back, pulled the blankets tight under his chin, and listened. Nothing at first, just the distant TV noises, and then a faint creak. He lifted his head up, and there it was again. It wasn't out in the hall, it was somewhere in his room. As his eyes got used to the dark, he could see faint shapes in the shadows, with bits of light looking back at him. He stared hard at the closest shape for a few minutes, and then relaxed when he realized it was only a pile of his clothes over a chair with a belt buckle faintly glinting in the sliver of light from the door. He looked again at the door, and that sliver of light wasn't far. He could slip across quickly and open it again. He had just started to pull the covers back when he heard a creak from the corner of the room. He froze and turned and peered into the dark. Another dark shape, with two red spots glowing near the top. My dresser, he thought. With clothes on it and a battery charger or something, he started to smile. Then one of the red spots disappeared for a moment, just like it was winking at him. He carefully slid under the blankets, still watching the two red spots, and then he heard it. A crunching, like toast, but louder, like bones. Dad! Dad! This time he screamed with all his might. As he listened to his dad's quick steps coming down the hall, he heard a quick rustle in his room, just for a second or two. "What is it, Stevie? Another nightmare?" His dad pushed open the door and rushed over, their dog at his heels. "No, I was awake, Dad. I heard crunching noises, loud ones, and saw something over there." Stephen pointed at the corner. Nothing there now. No monster, just his dresser. Clean, square, no clothes on it, no battery chargers, nothing on top except his clown doll, glass eyes reflecting back at him. Once again, his dad checked in the corners, under the bed. "Here," said his dad, holding up an old bone. "Peter must have been gnawing at this. I'll make sure he stays out this time." Stephen watched as his dad checked in the room for him, especially in the closet. He thought he saw the clothes move when his dad opened the door, but he wasn't sure. Once again, his dad tucked him carefully in, gave him a hug and kiss, and said he'd be fine. His dad left the door wide open this time and headed back down the hall, the dog at his heels. Stephen waited. This time the puff of air was stronger, longer. His bedroom door swung closed, slowly, steadily, the light narrowing until with a click it latched. Stephen whimpered. He wanted to duck right under the covers. He was afraid to watch, yet afraid to not watch. He stole a quick look to the corner, nothing there except the square shape of his dresser. He heard another click from the other side of the room. He watched, eyes wide, lips trembling, as his closet door slowly swung open. Inside was a tall shape with 2 red dots at the top, staring at him. As he stared back, unable to move, one of the eyes closed, then opened. Stephen tried to scream. The end. I think this was a successful story. Well, unless you were Stephen, I guess. Here's the second story. Cat fight. "I just hope I don't have a wardrobe malfunction," said the witch. Red tugged at a strap, and the lattice work of lace shifted slightly. "There," she said, "don't wiggle too much. Just perch on the bar stool and show some leg. I'll be working the bar. I'll let you know if anything slips out." "Who else is playing out this story with us?" asked the witch. "Oh, the wolf is the young stud. Easy role for him. And Snow White will be a sweet young thing perched near you at the bar. Flirty, animated sorts, skimpy clothes, maybe into drugs, high heels that say 'do me,' and annoyingly thin, as in size 0 dress. A wiry little thing." "Should be easy for her to play," said the witch. "I do worry about her, though she hasn't taken our reassignments well." The witch and her friends had been brought to life by the Grimm's tales, and then left adrift when interest in the stories faded. Luckily, their power to bring a story to life, to boost emotional impact, was still needed, hence their current assignment. The witch checked her makeup one more time. "I'm glad that Snow has decided to join us. Like I said, she's a good fit for this character. I just hope she's not into drugs in her between the stories life, too. She always seems on edge, sometimes just holding things together. I'll talk with her later. Let's get going now. Story outline looks easy. Let's go breathe some magic into it." She crossed her legs and smiled at the bartender. Hi, I'm Martha. Nice place here. I think I'll start the evening with a Jaeger bomb." "You got it," said the bartender. "I'm Celia. Nice outfit you've got on. I like all that peekaboo you've got happening." "Thanks, Celia. I need all the help I can get to bait my hook. I don't have a sexy young body like yours anymore." "Oh, don't worry. You'll still turn some eyes," said Celia. "Well, I remember when I used to turn all of them," said Martha. "Sometimes I wish I didn't remember those days. How easy it was. All the guys, all the parties." "Well, it is a young crowd here," said Celia. "More my age." "Suits me fine," said Martha. "I like the challenge of the chase. Sometimes even competing with some young trailer trash over a guy." She gazed around the room. Not too crowded yet. Some skinny little thing sat a few bar stools away, tapping her foot nervously. She had black hair piled high, pale skin, bright eyes, a couple of tattoos, scarlet lipstick, and a minuscule dress over her scrawny frame. Definitely a skanky look. Skinny girl stared back at Martha, smirked, and looked away. Martha glared back. Oh, bring it on, girl. She could feel an extra bit of aura from the girl, pumping up her appeal, so she cranked up hers too. She could already see a few eyes turning towards the bar, obviously for her. Even the most minor of the bit players would be part of the story, both this initial version and subsequent retelling. Another drink? Asked Celia. Sure, said Martha. She checked her watch and looked over at the door. There he was, right on time, all 6'4" of him. Long black hair brushed back, piercing eyes, strong nose, full lips, that unshaven, rugged look, V-neck T-shirt to show both some chest hair and his biceps, tight leather pants and Western boots, and not that it was really needed, a powerful projection of raw sex. The room silenced long enough to hear a few gasps and sighs, and then the buzz resumed, even higher. Martha checked her dress, still okay, then added a little spell to boost her look. Game on. She could sense the increased level of pheromones in the room as the other bit players reacted to the three of them and reacted to each other in response. Most were here to get some action. The ladies preened, fluffed their hair, hiked their skirts a little higher, and laughed a little louder. The men glowered at each other, flexing their muscles, and tried to check out the two women at the bar without their own girlfriends noticing, unsuccessfully. The new arrival smiled around the room, managing to imply to all the women that they were on his list for later, and to all the men that he was less of a rival and more of a buddy to share a pitcher of draft with later on. He walked over to the bar and smiled. Ladies, good evening. I'm Rome. The skinny girl spoke up first. Hi, I'm Tammy. I'm here with my grandma. She gestured over at Martha. Martha smiled graciously. I'm Martha. No relationship to this poor, scrawny thing. Can I buy you a scotch and tell you about some of the positions I learned in my tantric yoga classes? Tammy hopped down off her bar stool. Hey, who you calling scrawny, lard ass? Romulus held up his hands. Now, ladies, I can appreciate both a boy's figure and the more Rubenesque. But would a fight really solve anything, especially since it's obvious who would win? He smiled at them both. Martha slipped down from her bar stool. Yes, it is rather obvious. She walked over to Tammy and gave her a shove. Go away, little stick girl, if you really are a girl. Tammy stumbled back, paused, and then launched herself at Martha. They screamed and punched at each other, shoving back and forth, and suddenly Martha was on her back, with Tammy straddling her, holding a knife to Martha's neck. This ends now, bitch, Tammy yelled, eyes wide as she started to push the point in. The witch knew they couldn't really be killed in the stories, but it would feel like it. She knew from experience, and this had gone much farther than they had planned. The wolf pulled at Snow's shoulders, but her legs were wrapped around the witch, one hand twisted in her hair, the other pushing the knife against her neck. The witch could feel a sharp pain and a trickle of warm blood running down her neck. She pushed with her hands and her power and whatever spells she could think up in her panic. Snow, Snow, it's me, Agnes. Snap out of it. It's only a story. Snow yelled, pushed harder, her eyes wild, and then she paused and relaxed and suddenly sat back. Oh, geez, sorry, Agnes. Are you okay? I really got carried away. I guess I took your comments to heart. It just triggered something in me. That's okay, said the witch. I'll need to weave a spell or two to edit this ending out, but what about you? I'm fine, said Snow. Don't worry about me. She adjusted her little dress and walked out. Red called over to Romulus and Agnes. So, shooters? The end. You ever have one of those right on the edge days? I think Snow needs to talk to her friends. She seems to be losing it. Stay tuned for more podcasts, either my own stories on Fridays or some of the classics on Tuesdays. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get the next installment as soon as it's ready. If you enjoy this reading or have other stories you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. And do check out my other posts on my Substack at ravensview.substack.com. Ta-ta for now.